Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising.
Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am Misty Rose Gold, International Success Coach, and I have with me Rex Sikes. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
No problem whatsoever. So we are going to talk about your book today, and we see it in your background, Life on Your Terms. So what inspired you to create Life on Your Terms?
Well, in some ways, it's the story of my life, and yet it's only the actual story of my life is only a small portion of the book. But back when I was in my early 20s, I had a crisis that set me on the path for what I do today, and I've been doing it ever since. And that was transformed my life. I learned how to run my brain and became a proponent of celebrating everything, and I wanted to share it. So I've been doing workshops and seminars, audio and videos for decades. I didn't ever want to put out a book because the book, somebody can pick up a book, put it down. I read plenty of articles. I had other things that were published, and they would come into the programs and they would wait for me to say something from my book and then go, I remember that, and I always felt that was a distraction from the actual work. So I was very reluctant to put out books. I'd written more than a dozen books and just never released them. I did ultimately some for different venues, but I just decided, it was time to put something in the hands of people, because it was all out there in audio and video, but the average person, if they didn't have access to the audio or video, couldn't do anything with it. So I released the book.
Oh, nice.
And it's simple steps, methods, principles, and practices that I've learned over 50 years, to put into practice so that you could transform your life more easily and happily and swiftly and with fun, because too many people talk about it being sweat and hard work and effort, and they go, oh, easier said than done. And I go, no, it's easier actually than you might think it is. So that's why I wrote the book. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we are all about transforming lives here at Wealthy Minds. So we're definitely on the same page there. As you were writing your book or publishing it or launching it, what was your biggest challenge that you faced?
Cutting things out, making it to the point, really, more than anything else. I had so much I wanted to say, and I decided, I'd have to do that in subsequent volumes. And editing my own work is kind of nightmarish. So I had a team of editors, good people who went through it, and then I would rewrite stuff continually just to make sure I was getting it into a kind of I wanted it to reflect a conversation, not a conversation, but how I speak, as opposed to being a written book. And there's certain conventions that I used in the book to appeal to the subconscious, unconscious, other than conscious mind, so that you can actually transform just by reading the book. You're getting all sorts of different kinds of positive messages while you read it. So there was a structure to it, and it was
Sure.
There was no problem with writing it or getting it written or getting it published, but making it concise was the biggest challenge. And
Oh, I love that. I love that you're saying that, because, a lot of people want to write a book, but they come across these challenges and they're like, what do I do? I mean, some people don't even get started because they don't know how to get started, but it's what's wonderful for people to get that perspective of, I wrote too much.
Well, and I've recorded, in my workshops, everything was recorded. It's on video and audio, and I was like, I can't go through thousands of hours to transcribe this stuff. But I will say this: if you want to learn to write, if this is what the question is about. I decided in the early 2000s, 2005 or 6 or something like that, to write a daily blog. I started, I believe, on Facebook, where I would write little inspirational messages and memes and posts. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a blog. So ultimately, I started a blog, and I started writing the blog every single day.
Oh, wow.
And some articles would be very long. I mean, I would overwrite. I mean, I wanted to get everything, again, going back to being concise. I would write long articles, you know, just so that I could try and, because I always try and tell people now, look, an article isn't exhaustive. I can't tell you everything inside of a book or inside of an article, but I can get you well on your way. But there's going to be things that are left out. There's going to be either the next chapter, the next book, or the next article. But I started writing every day. I've never, ever not written a day.
Oh,
So
wow.
for well over 14, 15 years, I've written a daily blog. If I'm in the desert or I'm somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi, I write 8 or 10 or however long I'm going to be gone in advance, so that they then get, you know, published time. But I've never broken that chain of stuff. But writing every single day meant I had to come up with topics. I had to, you know, view my mind. And I have an article out there called how to write better. I wrote it for Joe Vitale back in 1990, 2000 for his blog, Mr. Fire blog at the time, and I just republished it. In fact, over the New Year holiday, and you know, I can somewhere get a link to that. But Great Gratitude Activator is my blog, and it's in there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But one of the best ways to get going is to say, what is it that I want to show, tell, and have my audience feel, and ask yourself this question, and then go do something else and let your brain do the work. And
I love that.
Your brain will work like it does with a tip of the tongue phenomena. You know, we go, what's that person's name? What's this person? When you try and force it, it seems to be elusive. But when you say, oh, it'll come to me, you know, an hour later, a day later, a week later, it pops in, and you go, oh my God, that was so same thing with when writing, and people get in this writer block kind of thing, and they're stuck. What is it that I want to communicate? What do I want to say? What do I want to show them? How do I want them to picture things in their head? What do I want them to hear? How do I want them to feel? You know, and what do I want to walk them through? And then go off. I used to do that in college, you know, and go watch TV or do something else, and I'd go, oh, and then you got to write it down. You got to take notes, or it'll go. You know, David Lynch, the director, always says ideas are like fishing. You know, it's like they come, you know, they're swimming around and like that, and somebody drops a line in, unless you write it down and get it hooked, you're going to lose that idea. It's going to come and it's going to go. So always you take notes so that you keep it. So that's how. But so now I'm used to writing lots.
Right. And I concur with everything that you're saying. I'm an author as well, and I understand the creative process, and I don't stress about it. I don't think about it. It just comes when it comes. And when it does, you have to write it down. Like I have Google Docs on my phone. I have it on every device. So wherever I'm at, I can take notes.
There you go. You know, and here, what my work is really about is not trying to do it consciously, but letting your brain do it for you, letting your mind do it for you, letting the subconscious, which is a powerhouse of us, do it. So it's give the instruction to the brain, let the brain carry it out. You know, people say, I don't know how to be motivated. I don't know how to do these things. Well, because they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to work from the least, you know, the conscious mind is good at setting a direction, saying, here's what I want to do, but it's not good at carrying it out.
Right.
The subconscious mind is a servant. It will do exactly what it's learned to do, and it'll do exactly what you train it to do. So training the brain is really important when you want to be able to do things consistently and productively and positively and profit, you know, with it being profitable.
Definitely.
So it's no struggle. It's not hard. It's not struggling. It's not effort. It's not, you know, all of the, you know, stuff that people will tell you have to risk, spend your family time, you have to sacrifice and suffer and sweat and all this kind of, it's not that at all. You don't have to do that. And that's what the book is about.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. So what is your greatest success with your book? Maybe an inspirational story that somebody was like, oh my God, it changed my life, you know, something like that.
I mean, I get so many of those. It's hard to pick just one. But there are people who tell me, that they have really transformed by either the book has some stories in it, which are examples of people in everyday life who've applied kind of the principles that I share or that I teach. Some stories aren't people that I know, but are examples that people gave me to say, hey, this person was kind of learned how to run their mind or learned how to overcome a difficulty. And so I use them as an example. And then there are, the ones that I share in the point. But there are so many people who are using the book to just, again, they're using it as a manual because it's a kind of a how-to manual that's fun and easy. And I don't typically talk about my students or my readers in that way. So you'll have to forgive me if I don't come up with the perfect example.
It's okay. Definitely. I mean, it's successful that you're inspiring people, you're helping them, that kind of thing. That could be the greatest success, is just the lives that are changing.
Oh, well, no, that is the point. So, I mean, it's very difficult for me to single out one or the other, because I just don't do that. People will say, well, who are your students? I don't tell people who my students are. You can find out, you can look online. Some of them have left testimonials, but I don't name drop in that way. So it's kind of,
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not looking for the names. It's,
no, I know you.
just, yeah, definitely not. So I love this conversation that we're having, because we want to inspire people to chase their dreams, to accomplish their goals. And if their goal is to become a published author, I mean, this is a wonderful conversation to make sure that they have the insight to accomplishing that and achieving that goal. It's beautiful.
Well, I would add this, is that a lot of times people use like the biggest example to say, here's what you can achieve. What I discovered, I mean, I'm also in the film business, and I work with a lot of producers and directors, and I have a blog on how to get your movies made and things like that and navigate a career, a podcast rather. I don't often interview the top, like there's no point in doing James Cameron or somebody of that caliber, because there aren't many people, you can aspire to that, you can see him. What I want to do is I want to share the people who are in the trenches every single day, working as you or I or others would. So it's not that the exceptional story is the key, it's what's the maybe even the least likely or least important story, because that's where most of us, it doesn't sound impressive, but the point is, it's where we all are on a daily basis. It's like saying, what is your favorite meal? Well, my favorite meal could be, something really extravagant, but what is it that keeps me alive every day is truly more important.
Yes, definitely. And I love that, right? Because my aim with the people that I interview, it's like they're real people with real stories. Right. Yeah. And I absolutely love that. And one of the guys that I'm interviewing in the next week or so, he has this, just typical appearance. He has a standard life. He's an average person, but I want to showcase his beautiful story of overcoming addiction and turning it into art.
So many everyday heroes just like that.
Yes.
They don't get the spotlight because people are chasing the shiny objects, and that point right there is so powerful and important. The heroes who have overcome, they're heroes to themselves and to the family and to other people around them. And sometimes no one knows who they are because they just fit in with everybody. But I mean, all you have to do is like walk down the street, and there are people who've overcome and so much and have succeeded and have been broken and found their way back. And they never get to be uplifted or edified or given attention that they actually do deserve, but they're not looking for it either.
Right. And I'm giving them a chance to finally share their story, which is so empowering, and I love it.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. No, you do a great service to everybody by doing this. Absolutely. And I love the title Wealthy Minds, because it has so much to do with just the mind being in tune and wealthy and happy and healthy and whole, along with finances and everything else. But I love the title. So very, very wonderful.
Thank you. And, that's what we live by, is a healthy mind is a wealthy mind.
Yes.
So definitely. You mentioned some personal challenges that you have put in the book. Do you want to share that with the audience?
Yes. I mean, when I was younger, It's one of many, just so you know. I mean, I've had numerous challenges in my life, and life-threatening challenges many times, financial challenges where I've lost everything many times, and emotional challenges, you know, and the loss of friends and loved ones. You know, loss, hardship, difficulty, and anything we face is just part of living. And to me, you know, I was in my early 20s and trying to navigate a film career, and I got pretty frustrated. Things had gone well for a while, and then they started to go kind of dark. And I'd been reading Napoleon Hill and meditating and doing hypnosis since I was a child. And I dropped off. I mean, I started to pay attention to other things, and I started to get frustrated and angry. And I went skydiving with a person who I did a movie with, and to the which made a girlfriend of mine very upset. She wasn't happy I was going skydiving with a woman. And I got injured, and I tried to hide it from her because, one, I didn't, you know, she didn't want me going skydiving in the first place. Two, she didn't want me going with this woman. Three, I got hurt. So I had really injured my back. So I went to a doctor and asked it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't walk. I was in a lot of pain. I said, is there anything we can do? And he gave me a couple pills and said, yeah, you can take this and I'll help you sleep and everything. I said, can I take them here? And he said, sure. And he gave me a little water cup, and I took the pill. The last thing I remembered for months. I mean, it was a fatal combination of pills.
Oh my.
Totally misprescribed medications. I went to pick up my sister, and she was like, you're a completely different person. Well, from that moment on until many months later, I did just about everything I could to die. And it was on a list of drugs as long as my arm. I mean, I started, people kept saying, there's something wrong with you. Here, take this, take that, take this, take that. So people are giving drugs to try and, you know, get me sane. And it was just contributing to the problem. And then at a certain point, I went cold turkey on all the drugs, and then realized, wow, I just lost all my friends, lost my career, lost my girlfriend, you know, lost all my, you know, everything. I just totally destroyed it. And I felt so bad. It's so horrible. I started to drink a lot, and then went back into drugs and everything else. And just one thing after the other. I mean, it was just this downward spiral. They can read about it in the book. But the point is that at some point I decided, a friend of mine said, you know, you're going to die. You're absolutely going to die. And at that point I had wanted to, but at that moment he said it, I went, I don't really want to do that. So I locked myself in my apartment. I said, I've got to get myself back, you know, together. So I'm just going to sit in my recliner chair until I can go out and face the world with confidence and with ease and get my friends back. So somewhere after 6 weeks, I was able to do that. But during that time, and this is what I write about in the book, during that time, I realized that I was going, why did this happen to me? What's wrong? How did I do this? Why am I such a screw up? Nothing goes. I was self-shame, low self-esteem, bad self-image, self-blame, you know, the whole thing, which so many people go through. And this is why
guilt. You have a lot of guilt
and all the guilt and everything. And so many people go through this. This is why I ultimately wrote the book. It's why I started teaching at that point. Once I realized that you could transform, I started sharing it in workshops. I had been teaching acting and hypnosis and different things prior to that. But so I started introducing it in meditation classes and self-improvement classes and in my business workshops that I was conducting at the time. And lo and behold, people were transforming. I realized I didn't want to know why I was screwed up. I wanted to know what I could do to be better. And I ended up creating something called directed questions, which has gone around the world to this day in various forms, and people have renamed it and called it different things and everything else. But directing your mind, and you have two ways of directing it: to dog crap or to diamonds. You know, dog crap or diamonds. And most people don't know that, one, they could direct it, and two, they don't know how to direct it, and three, they direct it to dog crap most of the time, wishing for diamonds. You know, and so they wallow in it. And there are people to this day who will say, well, when I was 25, this happened to me. And they are still a victim of what happened when they were 25.
Yes.
Carry that around. And I'm like, you don't have to. You can be free of that. You can resolve that. You can release it. You can transform, and you can direct your mind to the diamonds so that you get more good in your life. And so at that point, I started asking myself, how soon can I find myself feeling confident enough to go out? What do I need to do in order to face my friends, cheerfully? How can I, how do I have to walk and stand and look in order to pull this off so that people think I'm normal again, And so I started directing my mind instead of asking what was wrong into what could I do that was right and how could I do it? And so shortly after six to 8 weeks, somewhere in there, I ventured out into the world. I mean, meanwhile, I had gone out and gotten food so I could live in the apartment. I walked down to the supermarket 2 blocks away, but otherwise I stayed in my apartment and sat in that chair 15, 16, 17 hours a day, just in reflection.
Good.
But I came out of it better. I came out of it better, and I've been teaching it ever since. Some of it's in my book, it's in my programs. I do online teaching and other things as well in live events. So I mean, I've been sharing it now since that time.
That's awesome. And I'm stuck on the dog crap and diamonds. So you know what? Like, people stop searching for diamonds in the crap. Because that's literally what people are doing.
Well, and that's what people teach. They go, well, if you've got negative beliefs or limiting beliefs, you have to go through and unlearn all of them. No, life, what I said about tragedy and stuff coming up, life is beautiful, and it constantly gives you opportunities to change and transform. It's like
yes, it does.
The alerts on your dashboard, the oil light goes off, or your door is open, or your tire pressure's down, or whatever it might be, or you're running low on gas. That's all an opportunity. So when somebody says something and you go, instead of going, you miserable, and getting at them, go, why is it that, what is it about me that needs to drop, or that I need to release, or I need to let go of? This is that opportunity, that moment. I've spent a lot of my life in ashrams, with mystics and gurus and stuff. And I'd be in an ashram and I'd get into violent fights with people. We'd be arguing, not physically, but, we would be arguing. And we're supposed to be in this spiritual place. And I realized after a while that the ashram isn't a place where it's peaceful. An ashram is a place where you go to drop all of the baggage you've been carrying.
Okay.
And so it's actually kind of a microcosm, but a very intense microcosm of the real world, because anyone and everyone, you're supposed to be in this place where you're spiritual, and somebody looks at you wrong, and you're like, what the heck is wrong with you? How spiritual, you know what I mean? It's that place where you confront yourself over and over again, and that's what life is about. So, Steve Jobs said you can't connect the dots looking forwards, but you can connect them looking backwards. And every tragedy in my life, every has always been an incredible blessing.
Yes.
And people go, hey, you're struggling with this or something. And I go, I get to have problems. I'm above the ground and I get to have problems. And the problems are really gifts and opportunities for me to explore. Sometimes I'm challenged, and I don't know what to do, and that's fine. That's just the way it is. But I'm still above the ground. I'm still here. I still, if my kids have problems, people go, well, are you taking care of your kids? I go, I get to do that. That is a blessing. I'm so lucky that I have children, so that if they're adults, but if they have needs and I can do something for them, or they can do something for me, that's what it's all about. So it's really about celebrating. And I came into my power when I was about 25 or 26, when I realized if I was going to be on the planet, that I had 2 things were going to be true. One is I am a steward of this planet. I'm a caretaker. I'm here along with other caretakers, but I'm here. So I'm responsible for the planet. I'm responsible for me. I'm responsible for my neighbors and how we go through things. So I'm not going to throw litter on the ground. I'm not going to do, that kind of stuff. The other is I'm only here, as far as I know, this one time. You could tell me I have millions of lives, or I could tell you I have millions of lives. Doesn't matter. This guy speaking right now is here. This thing will go away sometime. It's going to transition into energy. So while I'm here, I have a choice: dog shit or diamonds. So I might as well have the party of a lifetime and celebrate every moment that I can. So if something comes along and gets me and it just kind of slaps me up, and I'm like, and I get stuck in something, I then remember, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity to celebrate. This is why you're alive. Is this pain that you're feeling isn't there so that you hurt. This pain is there so that you wake up and you realize that you can celebrate.
Yes.
And so all of life becomes a blessing. And if you look at life as a blessing, if you look at something as a problem, it'll be a problem. If you look at it as a blessing, it'll be a blessing. That's why I say, dog
even the challenges.
Dog crap or diamonds is your choice, huh?
Yes, even the challenges.
Yeah, and I don't even like the word challenges. I mean, the people who like challenges are the people who rock climb, and they do all these dangerous things. They go, oh, it's a challenge, they do jumping from ledges or whatever, they skydive. That's a challenge. Most people, when we talk about challenges, they think about, I have a challenge in business, they go, I'd rather not have it. It's not like,
Mm,
it's not like, oh, I love this challenge.
yeah.
I have 100 customers have to call it in. All of them said no, and that's a challenge. It's not an exciting opportunity. But my point is, if you reframe it, instead of calling it a challenge, calling it an opportunity, I have an opportunity
Right.
to do something different in a different way than I normally would have. What would have been a challenge for me in the past is now an opportunity for me to move forward in a positive and powerful way. That's when we start unleashing our energy to move forward.
Mhm.
As long as we're, and I mean, I don't criticize people who say challenge. That's not the point. Point is that it's how we, a wealthy mind is how we
Yes.
something
Yes.
to be, that how it will be.
And for me, a challenge is a positive thing because I love them.
Right.
So, but I say it that way because a lot of people will say the bad stuff that happened. There is nothing bad. It's simply experience, right? So everything that you're saying, I absolutely love it. You are giving people keys to a much better life, a much, much better life. And, I really appreciate your vulnerability, sharing your story with us, sharing some of your darkest moments, but also sharing the part where you just sat with yourself for weeks on end. And that's what it takes. We can't keep running from ourselves. That's what a lot of people do. They just run and run and run and run and run. They never sit with who they are. And therefore, their life is never fulfilling. So I just want to commend you for everything that you've done in your life thus far. And thank you for being willing to share your story with us. We're not done, but I just wanted to take a moment and celebrate you.
Well, I really appreciate that, and thank you for the opportunity to do that, because life is good, and like we were talking, and that kind of acknowledgement is the kind of acknowledgement that everyday people need every day, in their walk, in their life, with the people that they're around, and they don't oftentimes get that because
Right.
many people are focused on the big examples or the shiny examples.
Right.
But it's also, people drag around their difficulties and their challenges from the past. And I always say, it's like, if you wore every piece of clothing you've ever had in your life and you were wearing it today, you wouldn't be able to move. And yet people do that with their, when I was 10, this happened. When I was 17, this happened. You have no idea what happened when I was 30, and they carry it. It is time to release it. We are meaning.
I love that. The imagery that I have.
Just take it off, right? Release it.
Everyone, I just want to say real quick, I'm recovering from a cold, so that's why my voice is the way it is. I'm sorry. But the imagery that I'm seeing is, I see all these layers of clothes and take them off. It's just the layers coming off, stripping them off. It's such a beautiful imagery. Thank you for sharing that. I feel the power in it. It's not just words, it's not just imagery, but there's a spiritual power combined with that. That's like, whoever's listening to that, boom, their layers are going to start coming off.
Here's how I look at things. We are born on this planet. We might bring DNA, material with us, but essentially everything that we do today, we've learned to do. We've learned to read and write and walk and crawl and use the fork and use a computer and drive a car. And we learn to have our problems, and we learn to have solutions. We learn to do good things and bad things. We learn everything. I mean, there's nothing, probably almost nothing we haven't learned to do. And some of that learning happened before we even had the ability to give permission, to say, yes, I want to learn that, or no, I don't want to learn it. We learned a lot of things that are both good and some that are really useless and some that maybe really seem debilitating. But here's the good news with all that. You and I are a learning machine, and we are filled. We are literally infinite potential, infinite opportunity, and infinite resourcefulness. And whatever you learned to do in the past has become the habits that you live from today. They've been neural wires. It's neural wiring. It's all been, laid out in the brain. It's a matter of electrochemical, impulses that trigger things, and then we start to feel a certain way versus that. The interesting thing is that, science tells us today that and mystics have known this for eons, but tells us that thinking optimistically is really healthy for you, that the more positive and optimistic you think, the better, you release the right brain chemicals for health and well-being and all that. When you're stressed and you're thinking of your worry or fear or doubt or anxiety or anger or frustration or sadness, you're actually depressing your immune system and causing extra stress. And so that's debilitating. So the healthiest way to live is to live optimistically, look for blessings, live in gratitude, and feel really marvelous and wonderful. And the good news is this, is whatever you learn to do that doesn't work for you, and it does in some cases, but not in all, let's call it, it's context driven. In some cases, it's good. Like anger is a great thing to have when you need it, or the ability to run is a great thing. You don't want to be running all the time, but if you need to run from a burning building, you want to be able to run
Right.
your ass off, right?
Right.
So times when everything is useful, but it's not useful when it isn't useful. It could be, you know, it's like having all those clothes. Those clothes are useful, but they're not useful all at once.
Right.
So, you know, it's really a matter of having good taste. But the point is if you learned a bad habit, or you learn to be depressed or sad or fearful or anxious or worried or anything, doubtful, lack of confidence, you have poor self-esteem, poor self, you learned it. And because you learned that, you can learn to be otherwise. You just train your brain to be what you want it to be now instead of what you don't want it to be. And people tend to focus on what they don't want to be instead of what they do want to be. And so they spend most of their time being what they don't want instead of spending most of their time being what they do want. But it's really a lot easier, and it's a whole lot, it is absolutely as easy as it is said. You can do it if you do it, you know, it's like you can eat an elephant bite by bite. Anything can be done in the right amounts to give you the right kind of thing that you need to do in order to transform maximally, you know. But it's just up to people to start to do it, want to do it. If they want to do it, there are ways to do it.
Yes, definitely. And you're sharing so much wisdom, and I appreciate that very much. And we're going to start wrapping up here. There's one question I'd love to ask, and I have to ask. What do you do to keep a wealthy mind, i.e. a healthy mind?
Well, I think I've already answered that in many ways. It's
Yes,
consider
your
something
personal practices.
right,
So what I'm digging for is something.
One is I use the directed questions, you know, that I created, you know, 40 years ago, but which is how to direct your mind in a positive and truthful way. So I do that. Stuff that I do is in my book, you know. But
do you have a ritual?
I get up in the morning and I'm thrilled to be alive.
Okay. All right.
I'm like, here I am. I love being alive. I'm here. I'm another day. It's great. That's always a good start of the day. I tend to smile a lot as much as I possibly can and laugh as often as I can. I like to do that. I mean, I do in different incarnations of my life. I either meditate or I relax or I, you know, do something. But in general, I get up and I enjoy the day. What I've learned to do in most cases is to live my day meditatively. I try and be as present as I can be present, enjoy what I'm doing. And exactly what I said before, if you consider something a problem, it's a problem. If you consider it a blessing, it's a blessing. So if something comes my way that's a problem, as much as is humanly possible, because this is, you know, I'm not trying to be some kind of exemplar for people. I'm trying to say that everybody has whatever. But when things come our way, if you look at it like, wow, this is an adventure, and I get to explore it, and I don't know how it's going to work out, but I always land on my feet, and good things always come to me. And ultimately, looking back, I know I'm going to laugh on it. So why should I wait? Why not just have fun with it now and allow it to be and let it go? And so I don't worry like I used to. I don't fret like I used to. Not that there isn't any moments of that, but the moments come and go. It's like a wave that goes out and comes back. You know, night becomes day. You know, it's not getting caught. It's not getting hooked. It's letting things move. Is you know, and realizing that life is a process. So I try and attempt to stay in the flow as much as possible. Just be in the flow.
I love that.
And
you
live.
Practice the flow.
I practice flow. Yes, I do. You know,
Yes.
and it's a whole lot easier to redirect things than it is to build a dam. I mean, you know, we know that if there's a river and you try and stop it, it's harder than if you just dig a trench going another way. So, you know, what do I do if a problem comes up? I direct it into what can I do? What's positive about it? Where can I celebrate? What's good and new? And the fact that I'm grateful for the opportunity to explore things, and it's another opportunity for me to release something that I might have not realized I was harboring.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. It takes so much energy to control things.
Yes.
It's exhausting, but if you're in the flow, it's easy.
Well,
so much easier.
But what you just said is learning what you can control and what you can't control. I can control myself.
Yes.
My mind and my emotions, my behaviors, my speech, I'm responsible for that. I can't control you or other people. Like
Right.
if somebody says I'll meet you at 10 o'clock and they're not there, it's like the only thing I can do is go. I get to be really angry or upset or carry that around forever. I get to let it go, and speak what else. Or maybe I'm there at 10 o'clock, and I don't know why, but that there's an opportunity there that I could explore. And it's a good thing the other person didn't show up at 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
always being open to possibilities that are wonderful and delightful and good for you, as
Right.
opposed to going, oh, this sucks and this is wrong and this is bad. So it's dog crap or diamonds.
I love that. I love that. So as we close, I would like you to share from your heart, from your soul, speak to the author that's listening, that one person that's listening that wants to become the author. What can you say to inspire or encourage from your heart and soul?
Wow. Well, if I can do it, you can do it. I mean,
yes,
nothing special about me in any way, shape, or form. And that's good news,
Yeah.
If I can do it, you can do it. So do
I
it.
love that. Yes. Oh, I love that. And that is the perfect way to wrap things up. So, Rex, thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you so much for inspiring our listeners, our viewers, and thank you for inspiring me. I appreciate you.
Right back at you. Thank you. And
Yeah.
best of health to you.
Thank you very much. And please purchase his book, Life on Your Terms. If you love what Rex is talking about, grab his book, go to his website, rexsikes.com. And I encourage all of you to download the Wealthy Mind app and get started on your wealthy mind today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's been wonderful being with you and with your viewers and listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.